Hello and welcome. This is Self-Control, How to Build a Better Life, the podcast that will inspire you to take control of your mind and your mindset to go forward and build a life that you want to live. As you know, this podcast is aimed at helping you, the listener, build a better life. And the only way that I can do that is to speak on things that I have done to improve my own life, right? This is not preordained wisdom. This is not your favorite social media guru. This is simply an honest conversation. And you'll notice by the length of this episode, it's a little different. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. I want to give you something that you can work on right now to improve the quality of your life, because it's something that I do every day, or at least many days, I like to think. And it has good results. So truly getting back to basics. We're going to keep doing those longer, more rambling, in-depth episodes. We're going to keep doing the guest interviews, but we're also going to do some of these quick fixes, these quick hitters that'll hopefully bring value to you. When you're on a coffee break or you've got 10 minutes with the kids away or something like that. So it goes back to mindfulness, and it always does. That is the key to a better life. And I really hope that you'll listen to my interview with Jahan Sator, which will be out. Part 1 will be out on the 20th of February. We spoke at length on mindfulness, and he's someone who is an expert, as much as one can be an expert in the idea of mindfulness. And the beautiful thing about mindfulness is that it is something for everyone, and it is something for everyone to practice in their own way. Jahan called it a Swiss Army knife for consciousness. So I really do hope you'll listen to that. But today, let's talk about mindfulness for you right now in your life. And if you've been listening to this show, it's an idea that I've been pursuing. I have my own thoughts on it, but I realize that my understanding of it is somewhat limited, or it's somewhat new. It's something that I'm building on now. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it as a way that it can help us solve problems. If you have feelings of stress that you cannot necessarily identify the source, if you find yourself from time to time sad or listless, meaning sort of drifting, not sure about your purpose. Big one for me when I was younger was dealing with anger and frustration. Things would happen and it would almost be like a small event would be like that last straw that broke the camel's back. Well, then I would explode, right? And that's a clear sign that there's a lot going on in your subconscious, or behind the scenes, if you like, that is really putting pressure on your nervous system or the limbic system. And these are things that I'm starting to explore. My understanding is limited, but we need to be aware that if we're feeling stress and we can't necessarily place the source, of course, it's obvious if there's something in your life that is overtly stressing you out, then you can understand why you'd feel stressed out. But what I'm talking about now is day to day, minute to minute. If you feel stress, you feel sadness, you feel directionless, you feel angry, you feel frustration, you feel self-doubt, all these things are not meant for you, right? Like you've welcomed them in, you've accepted them in, and it's a part of human life. And again, when I say you, I am in a sense talking to myself, but I hope that this wisdom can be of use to you, the listener, as well. Okay, so we've identified the fact that maybe there's something behind the scenes in my subconscious that is affecting me, right? Like I feel stress, I feel sad, I feel tired, I feel frustrated, I feel unsure. You don't necessarily need to feel that way, and you don't need to feel that is a life sentence or that's just how I am. If you believe a better life is possible, if you believe these feelings of, again, stress, sadness, maybe even guilt, shame, all these things, all these feelings, all these emotions affect our behavior, and they affect the quality of our physical being. They affect the way we feel physically. So if you're with me, let's take a moment now and do some deep breathing. What you're going to do is take a deep breath in through the nose. And when you do this, I want you to feel your diaphragm, which sits just below your lungs, and your gut, which sits below your diaphragm, your intestines, if you will. I want you to feel the entirety of your stomach, your diaphragm, your lungs, that entire middle section inflating with air when you inhale. And you're going to want to hold that a moment, and you can even go a little further than that and feel your pelvic floor drop. Right? You're really expanding to make room for that air. And now Let's exhale through the nose by pushing with the diaphragm, and imagine your belly button coming all the way in to touch your back. Let's do one more. Sitting up or standing up straight, breathing in deeply through the nose, feeling your entire body expand with air. And then exhale by pushing with the belly button and the diaphragm. Now that is something whenever I get a moment, I try and do. In fact, every breath we take should be in that manner where we're mindfully aware of every breath we take. And that was something, again, that Jahan made clear to me when we spoke last year, and we spoke about it again just the other day in our conversation that, again, will be out on February 20th. So, again, these feelings of stress, etc., guilt, anger, shame, whatever that may be, yes, they have their reasons. Yes, you're going to work on them. It's probably not something we can work on today in this episode, but do know that those feelings reside in you physically, okay? Yes, there are mental reasons, but of course the mental and the physical are deeply intertwined in the human body and in the human experience. So make time right now to take a few deep breaths. Next, what I'll suggest is to understand and accept these feelings do exist within you, okay? Quite often, we get so used to these feelings that we make them a part of our identity, and rather than seeing it as something I'm feeling, something I'm experiencing, something that is transient, right? Something that will pass through me, we begin to see it as me. Well, I'm the angry guy. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I am guilty. I'm ashamed of things I've done. I'm ashamed of myself. Well, that is not a recipe for fixing that problem. And again, this whole entire podcast is predicated on the fact that we're going to have a conversation about living a better life. And I would think starting to rid ourselves as much as possible of those feelings and preventing them from taking roost, from coming home to roost, from taking up residence in our person. So let's accept that they exist first and foremost, and let's have a lot of grace and a lot of patience for ourselves and forgiveness for ourselves that, yes, I've allowed negative emotion to enter my life. I've obviously done things that were wrong, that I would take them back if I could, but they happened. And they're not necessarily happening right now. They were in the past, but here I am in the present. Okay, so let's go back to the idea of mindfulness. Mindful control of the breath, and then we can turn to mindful control of our thoughts. And not even control of our thoughts, but how about mindful awareness of what we are thinking? Right? Yes, I have these thoughts. Now, simply put, they are just thoughts. They're not me. These feelings I have, these emotions I have, they're just that. They exist within me. They are not me. So I want to put one more thing out to you today. These thoughts that are negative, they weigh on you mentally and they affect you physically. But in some ways, we can use mindfulness to begin to take control of how we feel, okay? What I'm going to suggest is that if you are saddled with negative emotion, negative thoughts, stress, anger, frustration, those feelings exist within you physically, and you now need to, now that you've turned to mindful awareness of your breath, and you've now turned to mindful awareness of these feelings, and they exist, and we're looking at them now, we're now going to turn to a mindful awareness of the physical body. Now, for me, I carried a lot of stress in my diaphragm and in my pelvic floor. Quite often I was clenching and not breathing properly. Okay, so the pelvic floor, if you're familiar with the Kegel exercise, that's that group of muscles. And quite often I was clenched down there and I was not breathing properly. My diaphragm was contracted, was not breathing well, could have been mouth breathing. For you, are you carrying stress perhaps in your face, right? How's your face right now? Are you squinting? Squinting your eyes? Are you contracting or tightening your face muscles? Are you staring intently at something? Are you biting your lip? Are you biting your tongue? How about your neck? How's your neck posture? You have a nice curve in your spine, shoulders back. Are you perhaps, if you're standing, or do you tend to maybe stand on your ankles or bounce up and down? A lot of people bounce their leg up and down. That's a sign of nervous energy, right? Bouncing that leg up and down. Are you perhaps clenching your hands and fingers, or were you like me, clenching your Kegel muscle, the PC muscle, right? The pelvic floor. Maybe you're even clenching your butt cheeks, clenching your sphincter. Okay? Physical responses to negative thought exist in this sort of way that we resist the natural state of our being, and we are physically, literally holding on to this negativity. And the way this works then is we're unconsciously doing this behavior. We're holding on, we're clenching, we're not breathing properly, tensing our muscles. It is my belief that this signals to the mind that we are not okay, and it becomes a vicious cycle, right? So you have to understand, or at least, and I'm no psychologist, I barely passed psychology when I was an undergrad, but there are parts of our mind that aren't necessarily all connected, and there's parts of our mind responsible for different parts of our existence. So, there's a part of your brain, let's say, that is not so aware of everything that is going on, but it is aware that you're clenching. It's aware that you're not breathing. It's aware that you're hunching over and you're staring intently at something. And it's, on some level, it's signaling to the rest of your body that we must be in danger, right? We must be hiding. We must be running. We must be trying to avoid being eaten, right? Again, this is my own theory. But try it out. Okay, think about it. You're harboring these negative thoughts. You're holding on to them physically in your body, and it's signaling to the rest of your being that there is a problem. And of course, there is a problem, but let's not make the problem worse in the immediate term by holding on to it. So this episode is an invitation to you to let go. We cannot solve all your problems today on this episode. I have a lot of sympathy for those of you who are dealing with trauma, dealing with addiction, dealing with family issues, things that maybe can't be solved, things that we're just going to have to go through. But be good to yourself, be mindful, and be aware. Accept that these thoughts are happening, and accept that you can do a certain amount of something to fight against them. And that is check your body physically, breathe deeply, breathe mindfully, be in control of as many breaths in and out as you can every day. And do a check of your body. What muscles are you holding on to? What muscles are clenched? And once you can do that, once you can start to let go a little bit more every day, that will gradually, as it did for me, signal to you that you're going to be okay, at least for right now. And that's the idea. Being okay in the present, being okay in this moment to moment, building a string of moments where we're letting go, we're accepting, and maybe we can be thankful. I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you found this useful. This is a process that I undertook myself this summer, and something that I still struggle to do and something I still fail to do sometimes. And I thought that maybe speaking on it could possibly help you, and it would be holding myself accountable to keep doing this as well. You can take some responsibility to feel a little bit better as we go forward, and I hope that you will. And I know that you will. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. And until we talk again, please remember, better is possible.